The silent withdrawal. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as emergency notification protocols flashed across every terminal. Representatives from over 300 species stared at the identical message that had appeared simultaneously across the galaxy. The United Earth Federation hereby withdraws from all Galactic Council diplomatic activities, effective immediately. All human ambassadors, mediators, and peacekeeping forces are recalled to Sol system. This decision is final. Ambassador Zrilvex of the Thoraxian hive clutched his ceremonial staff, compound eyes blinking rapidly in distress. This must be a malfunction, he chittered to his aide. The humans wouldn't just leave, but they had. Every diplomatic channel was dead. The sprawling human embassy complex in the Council's neutral zone stood empty, evacuation protocols completed with military precision before anyone had even noticed. Not a single human vessel remained in Council space outside the Sol quarantine zone. High Councilor Tamari of the Elaxi Dominion rose from her crystalline seat, her luminescent skin pulsing with agitation. "Order," she commanded, her voice echoing through the chamber. "We must assess the implications of this development." Implications. Ambassador Kroth of the Vulgar Confederacy snarled, slamming a massive clawed fist onto his console. Without human mediation, the Rigelian border accords collapse in days. The Antares trading routes will fall into chaos. Half the galaxy's peace treaties were negotiated by humans. He wasn't wrong. In just 2 centuries, since humanity's introduction to galactic society, they had become an essential diplomatic force. Not through military might or technological superiority, but through their uncanny ability to find common ground between the most hostile species. "We never should have dismissed their concerns," whispered Ambassador Elia 9, the synthetic representative of the Machine Collective. Her voice carried an unusual tremor. "They warned us about the exploitation in the Outer Rim. They proposed reforms for the Council's voting structure. They advocated for the rights of non-spacefaring species." "Sentimental nonsense," spat Councilor Drax of the Zephyrian Empire, his scaled skin flushing with irritation. "The humans were always too emotional, too idealistic. The galaxy doesn't run on good intentions." Yet even as he spoke, urgent reports flooded in from across Council space. The Morgan-Krell ceasefire, maintained for 15 years by human peacekeepers, had collapsed within hours. Both sides claimed the other had violated terms. Orbital bombardment had already begun. In the Vega sector, 3 different species were moving military assets toward a resource-rich system formerly protected by human-negotiated conservation laws. The Traders Guild reported market instability across 17 sectors as confidence in human-guaranteed trade routes plummeted. "We're facing systemic collapse," announced Admiral Thelos of the Council Defense Force, striding into the chamber unannounced. 74 separate conflicts have erupted in the past 6 hours. Our forces can't contain even a fraction of them. The truth dawned slowly across the assembled representatives. Humanity hadn't been just another member species. They had become the invisible foundation upon which galactic stability rested. High Councilor Tamari activated the historical archives with a gesture. "We need to understand why they left." What was the trigger? The holographic display showed footage from the previous Council session 3 days earlier. Human Ambassador Chen stood before the Council, presenting evidence of systematic corruption in resource allocation to developing worlds. Her impassioned plea for reform was met with dismissal, condescension, and thinly veiled mockery. "They're just humans," Councilor Drax had said. "They'll get over their moral outrage like they always do. They need us more than we need them." Now, watching the recording, many representatives shifted uncomfortably. It hadn't been just this incident. For decades, humanity had been pushing for reforms, advocating for fairness and cooperation, only to be systematically ignored by the power blocks that control the Council. "We pushed them away," Elia 9 said simply. "We exploited their diplomatic skills while dismissing their values. And now we face the consequences." A junior aide rushed into the chamber, panic evident in her movements. The Corellian Concordat has just collapsed. The frontier worlds are declaring independence from Council authority. The Proxima trading hub reports 3 capital ships of unknown origin have seized control of the station. The crisis was accelerating faster than anyone had anticipated. Without human diplomats constantly maintaining the delicate balance of competing interests, centuries-old grudges and ambitions were erupting across the galaxy. Ambassador Zrilvex's mandibles clicked nervously. We need to send a delegation to Earth immediately. Offer concessions, whatever they want. Too late, Admiral Thelos said grimly. Sol system has activated its defensive grid. No ships in, no ships out. They're not answering hails on any frequency. On the primary display, a strategic map of known space loomed with red indicators marking conflict zones. Like a cascading failure, peace was collapsing faster than information could travel. What about the human expatriates? Asked a representative from a minor aquatic species. Surely not all humans return to Earth. Admiral Thelos nodded grimly. We have reports of human civilians and non-government personnel disappearing from Council worlds over the past week. They knew this was coming. As for military personnel, human special forces embedded with Council peacekeeping missions vanished from their posts simultaneously. A chilled swept through the chamber. This hadn't been an impulsive decision. The humans had planned this meticulously, extracting their people and assets with precision. I don't understand, Councillor Drax insisted. They're just one species, not even particularly advanced by Council standards. How could their absence cause such immediate destabilization? Ambassador Elia 9's photoreceptors dimmed slightly. Because they were the ones who cared. They were the ones who listened when others wouldn't. They mediated not for power or advantage, but because they genuinely believed in cooperation, and we mocked them for it. The chamber fell silent again as strategic displays continued to fill with conflict markers. The Galactic Council, an institution that had stood for millennia, was facing an existential crisis not from war or plague or invasion, but from the simple withdrawal of one supposedly minor species. In the silence, Ambassador Croth spoke with uncharacteristic solemnity. We never truly valued what the humans brought to the Council. We saw their diplomatic efforts as weakness, their moral concerns as naivety. But they weren't just talking. They were holding the galaxy together. Outside the Council chambers, ordinary citizens across thousands of worlds were beginning to feel the effects. Human-designed AI systems that had regulated everything from interspecies translation to traffic control to food distribution were shutting down or functioning at reduced capacity. Human-owned corporations that had seamlessly integrated with galactic infrastructure were suddenly unreachable. Human doctors who had pioneered treatments for cross-species medical care had vanished from hospitals. And beyond the immediate practical concerns, a deeper fear was spreading. What if the humans never came back? High Councillor Tamari finally broke the stunned silence. We need to form a crisis response team immediately. Priority 1 is reestablishing contact with Earth. We need to understand their demands. Demands? Councillor Drax scoffed. They're in breach of their Council obligations. We should be imposing sanctions. With what leverage? Admiral Thelos interrupted. Earth is self-sufficient in resources. Their defensive capabilities are among the most advanced in the galaxy, and they've already withdrawn their people and assets from our jurisdiction. We need them far more than they need us. As if to punctuate his statement, the chamber's emergency systems activated again. The holographic display showed a pitched battle erupting at a major transit hub in the Cygnus Arm. 3 species, formerly kept in check by human-negotiated treaties, were now fighting openly for control of strategic resources. This is just the beginning, Ambassador Elia 9 said quietly. Without human diplomatic presence, every grievance, every territorial dispute, every historical enmity that was suppressed but never truly resolved, they will all resurface. The Galactic Council, for the first time in living memory, faced a future where their authority might mean nothing. and in the void left by humanity's withdrawal, chaos was rushing in. The calculated response. Admiral Helena Reyes stood before the curved view screen in Earth's Orbital Defense Command, watching the galaxy tear itself apart. Tactical displays showed conflict spreading like wildfire across Council space. Phase 1 complete, reported General Wei, studying data streams from covered human observation posts positioned throughout the galaxy. Withdrawal achieved with 99.8% personnel recovery. Council reaction exactly as predicted. Reyes nodded, her expression betraying nothing. She had opposed this strategy initially, arguing that humanity's diplomatic influence was better exercised from within the Council. But years of having Earth's concerns dismissed, of watching the Council enable exploitation of weaker species, had hardened her position. "And our contingency forces?" she asked. "In position but inactive," Wei confirmed. "Shadow Fleet is maintaining strict emissions control. They see nothing unless we want them to." Across the room, Dr. Elise Mbeki, former chief human representative to the diplomatic corps, studied psychological analyses of Council species responses. "The pattern is consistent with our models. Initial shock, followed by denial, now moving into panic as they realize how dependent they've become on our diplomatic infrastructure." "And the Council's attempt to reach us?" Reyes inquired. 17 formal requests for communication in the past 12 hours, Wei replied. 3 delegations have attempted to approach Sol system but respected the defense grid warnings. No hostile actions detected. Reyes allowed herself a small, humorless smile. "Then we proceed to Phase 2. On the primary display, a strategic map showed selected positions throughout the galaxy where human forces had maintained a hidden presence. With a single command, these units received new orders. In the Arcturus sector, a brewing conflict between the Xelnar Combine and the Vatari Republic threatened to engulf a dozen inhabited worlds. As the first shots were fired, both sides' weapon systems inexplicably failed. Communications arrays broadcast the same message across all frequencies. This sector is under Earth observation. Hostilities will not be permitted. Neither the Xelnar nor the Vatari could determine the source of the interference. Scans showed no human vessels in the vicinity, yet the message was unmistakable. Humanity was watching, and they possessed capabilities far beyond what they had revealed during their time in the Council. Similar interventions occurred simultaneously across 20 major flashpoints. No human forces were visible, no direct attacks launched, yet conflicts were frozen in their tracks through precise electronic warfare and targeted system disruptions. Back in the Galactic Council chambers, the representatives were watching these developments with growing alarm. They'd been hiding their true capabilities, Admiral Thelos announced, studying reports from across the galaxy. "The humans have technologies we've never seen before. They're intervening selectively, neutralizing conflicts without firing a shot." "Why would they conceal such capabilities?" demanded Councillor Drax. "They've acted like technological inferiors for decades." Ambassador Elia 9's synthetic voice was calm. "Because they were playing a longer game. They chose diplomatic integration over technological dominance. They wanted to be seen as partners, not threats." High Councillor Tamari's luminescent skin pulsed with anxiety. What are their intentions now? If they can project power this effectively while officially withdrawn from galactic affairs? The question hung in the air, unanswered. For a species supposedly devoted to peace, humanity was demonstrating alarming military precision. Yet their interventions had prevented bloodshed, not caused it. They were stopping conflicts, not exploiting them. It made no sense by conventional galactic politics. Then, after 7 days of silence, Earth broadcast a message to every world in Council space. It appeared on every communication device simultaneously, bypassing all encryption and security. The message showed Admiral Reyes seated at a simple desk, her uniform bearing no weapons or ostentatious medals. She spoke clearly, without diplomatic flourishes. "For 2 centuries, humanity has participated in galactic affairs with good faith. We have mediated your conflicts, healed your sick, protected your vulnerable populations, and asked for little in return except to be heard. That good faith has been consistently betrayed." She paused, letting the accusation sink in. The Galactic Council has become an instrument of exploitation, preserving the power of established species while systematically ignoring the needs of developing worlds. Our proposals for reform have been dismissed as naive. Our warnings about corruption have been buried. Our appeals for justice have been mocked. The message shifted to show footage of human diplomats being overruled in council sessions, evidence of resource theft from protected worlds, documentation of broken treaties that the council had refused to enforce. "We did not withdraw from diplomacy in anger or spite," Rice continued. "We withdrew to show you the reality you refused to see, that peace requires work. That cooperation is a choice that must be renewed each day. That without justice, there is no lasting stability." In the council chamber, representatives watched in uncomfortable silence. Many had dismissed these same human concerns when they were raised through proper channels. "Earth remains committed to a peaceful galaxy," Rice said. "But we will no longer enable a system that perpetuates exploitation. We offer a choice: meaningful reform or continued collapse." She outlined 3 core demands: restructuring of the Council to give equal voice to all member species regardless of technological development, independent oversight of resource allocation, and binding protections for the rights of all sentient beings. "You have 30 days to implement these initial reforms," she concluded. "During this time, we will continue to selectively stabilize critical systems to prevent humanitarian disasters. But we will not return to a broken system. The choice is yours." The transmission ended, leaving the Council in stunned silence. "This is extortion," Councillor Drax finally sputtered. "They're holding the galaxy hostage." "No," Ambassador Elianine countered. "They're offering us the chance to build something better than what we had. Everything they're demanding, they've been requesting through proper channels for decades." High Councillor Tamari raised her hands for silence. "The reality is that we have no choice. Without human diplomatic infrastructure, the Council is already losing authority across the Outer Rim. We've documented over 500 separate conflicts in the past week. Our peacekeeping forces are overwhelmed. And these human interventions," Admiral Thelos added, "they're demonstrating capabilities we didn't know they possessed. They could have used these technologies against us at any time. Instead, they're still preventing conflicts, still protecting civilians, even after withdrawing." The debate raged for days. Some council factions advocated for military action against Earth, but such proposals were quickly abandoned as the extent of humanity's hidden defensive capabilities became apparent. Others suggested simply waiting out the humans, believing they would eventually return out of self-interest. But as the galaxy continued to destabilize, and as human forces continued their precise, targeted interventions to prevent the worst outcomes, the truth became undeniable. The old order was finished. On the 29th day, the Galactic Council voted to accept Earth's terms. The reforms would be implemented, beginning with a fundamental restructuring of voting rights and the establishment of an independent ethics commission with actual enforcement authority. Admiral Rice watched the vote from Earth's orbital command. "Phase 3, she said quietly. Human ambassadors and mediators began returning to their posts across the galaxy, but with new authority and new mandates. Earth maintained its independent military presence rather than reintegrating with Council defense forces. The Shadow Fleet remained on station, unseen but ever present, a reminder of humanity's resolve. 6 months later, High Ambassador Chen addressed the newly reformed Galactic Congress, the Council's successor organization. Representatives from over 500 species filled the chamber, many from worlds that had previously been denied full voting rights. "We did not withdraw from galactic affairs to punish or control," she stated. "We withdrew to break a cycle that was leading toward collapse. Sometimes, to heal a system, You must first allow it to experience the consequences of its dysfunction. She surveyed the chamber, meeting the eyes of representatives who had once dismissed her concerns. Humanity remains committed to diplomacy, to cooperation, to peace. But true peace cannot exist without justice. True cooperation cannot exist without respect. And true diplomacy cannot exist without honesty. Across the galaxy, a new order was taking shape, not one dominated by humanity, but one where human values of equality and self-determination had finally taken root. It wasn't perfect. No system involving hundreds of diverse species could be, but it was better. And in the diplomatic academies of Earth, a new generation of ambassadors was being trained with a lesson their predecessors had learned the hard way. Sometimes the most powerful diplomatic statement is silence. Sometimes the most effective negotiating tactic is simply walking away. The galaxy had pushed humanity to its breaking point, never believing they would actually leave. Now they understood just how much they had to lose.